After 15 years, we've got a new Tron movie starring Jared Leto, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what's your excitement level for Tron Ares? If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And give me that point of reference. Did you grow up watching the previous Tron movies? Are you new to the franchise? Or did you watch Tron Ares without having even seen the previous Tron films? Also, one more thing before we get started. Coming up next week, I'm doing a live event at Concordia University, Thursday, October 16th at 7 p.m. at Concordia University. I'm doing an event called From Endgame to End Credits. This is a partnership with one of the professors of marketing at Concordia University and with the Concordia Business Alliance, basically looking at the rise of the MCU through phases 1 through 3 and sort of their decline in phases 4 through 5 from a marketing perspective. This will be recorded to be a video on my channel, so if you want to be present for a live recording of a video, I'll also be there afterwards if you just want to meet me. It'll be a really fun time to kind of dive into the MCU and its success and its failures at times from a marketing perspective, both from me as a film critic as well as someone who's an expert and professor in marketing, and also looking at what can they do and what are they doing to turn things around. So I'll have more details down below in the description, but if you're anywhere in Texas on planet Earth and want to fly to Austin, Texas next week, I'd love it if you'd join us for that event. And let's get started. And I'll cut right to the chase. I had a good time with the movie. As a Tron fan, I felt like I got a good Tron experience out of this film. With press screenings, you're usually able to bring a guest along. I brought my best friend Vincent, who's the best man at my wedding, and Tron is his favorite movie of all time. In fact, he threatened my wife if I took her to the press screening instead of him, so I decided to keep her safe and take him to the press screening. And it was me and him, and then a guy named Jones Vibes, another YouTube movie reviewer, was with us. All three of us were excited for the movie. All three of us are Tron fans. All three of us left happy with the movie. Not that we thought it was perfect, not that we did not have criticisms, not that after the movie, Vince and I mean, we went in the parking lot and nitpicked it for 30 minutes afterwards, but also we're like, yeah, I got what I wanted out of that movie. It took me back to that world and delivered solid, fun, a Tron adventure. And the thing that I think that it did was really well that good sequels do is that it delivered more of the Tron experience, the awesome visuals, the tech lore, light bikes, the vibrant world. You get all of that, but it doesn't just rehash the plot of the previous two movies. It does something fresh and new with the lore. Specifically, it takes the world of Tron and the grid into our world, which inherently is something different and interesting. Likewise, it kind of, by having this Ares lead character and what it does with AI and things like that, it's just a very different type of Tron movie, while also having all the staples and trademarks of a Tron film that you want. Of course, the visuals are awesome. That you just get these vibrant colors, high contrast worlds, and because they established such a cool color scheme and style in the original film, and here we are over 40 years later where finally you can like just make that look astounding and bring it into the real world and you believe it, they're just able to have constant images that are awesome. It's just a fun world to be in that is distinct and unique. Tron movies are so distinctly Tron movies because of their specific aesthetic. With what you got in the original one that is truly standalone, and then they properly modernized it with Legacy, and this is now taking what was in Legacy and bringing it into the real world. All of that just has something distinct, fresh, unique, new about it. That's what you want from a sequel, and it's what you want from a Tron movie. Another thing that I liked about this specific film is I think it's the best paced of the Tron movies, and it has more urgency to it. My friend Vincent kind of described it pretty well. He goes, the first two Tron movies are essentially Alice in Wonderland films for the first 60%, where at the beginning of the film, a character gets sucked into the grid, doesn't know exactly what's going on, and they're kind of wandering around, playing around in the world for half the movie before the plot really kind of kicks in and you figure out what we're trying to do. This movie doesn't do that because it's more bringing it into our world. It sets up a digital MacGuffin, and the movie's kind of a chase. Starting like 20 minutes into it, we're chasing, trying to get this thing and creating essentially 3 different motivations to try and get a hold of this piece of tech that's really important, and kind of alliances form, people switch sides, you're chasing around. And because of that, it just moves much quicker than the other 2 Tron movies. And without question, it has more urgency much earlier on in the film, where you feel the forward momentum throughout the entire movie as we're chasing down this one specific thing. Along those same lines, and another reason the pacing worked a little bit better for me, is that it shifts up the sequence dynamics very regularly. So you'll have a chase in the real world, and then you'll have a fight in the grid, and then you'll have an action sequence in the real world. And it keeps going back and forth between the grid, the real world. Different versions of the grid are presented in the movie. And so it never feels like we're lingering too long on one dynamic. So it doesn't slow down. You constantly feel things changing and shifting around in the nature of the story. And it just makes it flow really nicely. And along those same lines, without wanting to say too much, because I didn't realize how much they were going to do this, but it finds some really nice ways to honor the original Tron film, and does some things, goes to some places, is like, this is cool. This is a nice change of dynamics and change of setting in a way that doesn't need to be a big spectacular action sequence to do something that's really catches your attention and holds your attention in even some of the slower sequences in the movie, because they just keep shifting the dynamics and finding interesting places to go in different things to do with the characters with the established lore. And the final big thing you have to talk about is the score. And if you're not able to get Daft Punk to come back, Nine Inch Nails is a really good replacement for Daft Punk. Now, this is a little bit tricky because it's comparative language, and I almost put this in the mixed section, but I think that would be disingenuous or like an unfair thing to say. But I strongly prefer Daft Punk's Tron Legacy score to the score in this movie. But that does not mean the score in this movie is bad. Like, what have I been listening to since I left the theater? What was I listening to at the gym? I was listening to this Nine Inch Nails music that they made for this movie, which I don't normally leave a film and be like, oh, I got to listen to these songs. That's what this score did. I literally left the theater like, man, that wasn't as good as Tron Legacy. I can't wait to listen to it in my car. And so it's that sort of thing. Of course, like, Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor is such an obvious good pairing. It's like the obvious fan cast that it's like, why wouldn't you do it? That's what they did here. And of course it delivered. Tron Legacy, I think, is like an all-time great score that does something different with scores that so perfectly matches a movie. I just didn't get quite that magic for me personally, but that doesn't mean it's not an awesome score for the movie that you're watching. So as a Tron fan, I left happy with the movie, and the 2 people I watched it with who are also big Tron fans also left the movie very happy. With that said, Tron movies have always been better at world building, visuals, cool, distinct action sequences, and maybe not so much with story. So let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. I've got several things to discuss here. First one is kind of its explorations of the concept of AI. We're in a world where AI is such a part of the zeitgeist and the popular culture in our discussion of its uses, where it's good, where it's bad, should we be afraid of it? And the world of Tron, which is all about computers coming to life and having their own world, and in the case of this movie, coming into our world, this seems like a franchise just ripe to comment on AI and have something meaningful to say. Not that you want to turn Tron into a TED Talk, though there actually are clips of TED Talks in this movie, but conceptually and thematically, it's very easy to merge those two together, where you comment on something through story with this franchise. And there are some interesting ideas in this movie, but generally speaking, considering how easy it would be to say something more profound through story without lecturing with the Tron franchise, and even some of the ideas that are even present in the movie, it felt like it could have done more. I don't want the movie to lecture me. Instead, it's like, we'll just sprinkle a little something in there. We'll just touch on it a little bit. But really, we're about the fun. And generally speaking, I went to this movie to have fun, so I'd much rather we have the fun than the TED Talk. But the better version of this film would have found a way to have just as much fun and have a little bit more depth to it. Other thing I always talk with these ones is the questions people always ask. Does Tron Ares have a post-credit scene? It has a mid-credit scene that comes very early in the credits. So you absolutely should stick around for it, because you only have to stick around for like 30 seconds, and that whole time you've got a cool Nine Inch Nails song playing. The mid-credit scene is a follow-up to a plot point, so it does kind of matter on a plot level, and if they decide to do a sequel, it's kind of teasing potentially where things are going. It's not mind-blowing, it's not amazing, it's not super insightful, it's not like this big thing is revealed or someone popped up and you're like, wow, you gotta stick around, but you're only sticking around for 30 seconds, and it does follow up an important plot point, so it is worth sticking around for. There's nothing at the very end. There's just the 30 seconds, 1 minute-ish into the credits. It's worth sticking around for, but don't expect to have your mind blown by it. Other question people always ask with these franchise movies, what do you need to watch before Tron Ares? Well, there's only 3 Tron movies if you include Tron Ares, so my recommendation would always be you can watch Tron and Legacy before you watch this film. That is my recommendation, because it's not like that is a ton of homework. And both of them are, in their own way, important pieces of cinematic history. On an actual plot level, you can watch Tron Ares without having watched the previous films. There's quite a few callbacks to the original Tron, and if you're trying to understand, like, there's 2 families, the Flynn family, the Dillinger family, that are in competition. All of that goes back to the original film, and realizing that that's kind of the plot of this whole franchise, is that rivalry. You need to have watched the original film to understand all of that. There's actually not very much from Tron Legacy on a plot level that plays into this film, which I'll actually talk about a little bit in the bad section of this, because it doesn't make sense how few connections there are. But it's only 2 movies, so I do recommend watching them. Now, to be completely honest, while the original Tron is an important and groundbreaking film, it is a film that has also aged very poorly. It's the only movie that has ever looked like it looks, that does what it does. But watching it 40 years later, it is a little bit of a rough watch if it's not a film that you grew up with. But if you don't see them, this movie does, for the most part, stand on its own and explain everything to you that you need to know. From there, let's move on to the bad. And the thing that immediately comes to mind here is that this movie just requires a tremendous suspension of disbelief. Now, this franchise has always been built around the idea that there's like a laser that shoots a person and digitizes them into a computer world. That's always required a big leap of suspension of disbelief, but that's like the basic concept. And then from there, you're seeing fantastical things happen in a computer world, which can make sense. That's the built-in conceit. You just have to accept that to buy into it. And I feel like by taking the world of Tron into the real world, it is an exponential suspension of disbelief where suddenly you have lasers creating people. You have lasers creating vehicles, and immediately you're going, wait a minute, what are they made up of? Like what matter is being created here? Like what is happening here? What is inside of this person that is now alive? Even parts of it, you see it in the trailer, this isn't information, but like they take vehicles from the world of Tron, the grid, and they bring them into the real world. Okay, even if you could visualize it, you still have to have like scientifically designed vehicles like that to function in our world. It's not science fiction. It's full-blown tech fantasy. It's magic with computers. You can just bring things into the real world and they just work. The science just works because, we can now take what's in there and make it real. Right, but why would it fly? Why would it balance? Like, you have to explain what is the mechanism in the real world, at least something. And there was obviously a bit of that has always been in the franchise, that in even Legacy ends on that note. And you go, okay, how does that work? But this is the whole movie. Like, the whole plot is that tech. So you just have to be able to accept that that's what we're doing with this. And kind of the whole movie is built around you just having to be able to accept the absurdity of things that are happening. Evan Peters' villain character is just like a nutty, insane person that it's never fully explained what is his plan in all of this. Like, obviously he wants his corporation to be the biggest and the most profitable, but his plan is so publicly involves committing felonies, full display public felonies on a massive, large scale, destruction, murder publicly, all for like corporate espionage. You just have to go along with it for the plot to take place. In that regard, Tron Ares is very much like the first two Tron movies. The standout is the visuals, the world, the light bikes, the score. The script itself, not the best. There's some rough spots in here, and you just have to be able to go along with it. Suspend an awful lot of disbelief to go along with the roller coaster ride. And if you can do that, it is a fun roller coaster ride. Another thing in here that just really bugged me is the movie has a very strange relationship with Tron Legacy. If you remember the end of Tron Legacy and what happens at the end with Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde's characters, and then you see the plot of Tron Ares about the world of the grid coming into our world, it's really obvious how there's connective tissue and how Ares would feel like a direct sequel to Legacy. But it's not. Like, Ares continues where Legacy left off, but by a totally different mechanism with totally different characters. Like, it abandons the legacy of Legacy to do its own thing. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know if Garrett Hedlund just didn't want to come back and Olivia Wilde didn't want to come back, and so they had to write around that. But even if that was the case, you can recast Garrett Hedlund. This isn't like it's 15 years later. It's not like he has a super distinct look or that people will be super bothered by that recast in this particular franchise. And so they invent an entirely new character, an entirely new family that's brought into this gigantic, 40 plus year long rivalry between the Flynn and the Dillingers. And then there's this other family with these two sisters and this whole backstory. And the plot of our lead character, played by Greta Lee, her function in the story just easily could be Garrett Hedlund. And it makes just such like a passing reference to Garrett Hedlund's character, Sam Flynn. Like, we need more than that. There's a couple of just fleeting references, despite the fact that this movie is continuing on the stuff of where that movie ended. It's such an glaringly obvious, strange thing to omit in this movie and ignore where that movie ended and what it meant. And right along those same lines, the movie's called Tron Ares. Tron is not the name of the franchise. Well, it is the name of the franchise, but it's not just the name of the franchise. It's the name of a character that was so important that he was the title character for the first movie and the franchise. And like, once again, as much as this movie like calls back to the original film and Jeff Bridges and the Flynn character, where's Tron in Tron? Like, this is another one where, in light of what they do with the Ares character and the journey, the character arc that he has, the way that it kind of ties into the past with his character, it would have been so easy for them to find a way to bring Tron into the plot in a far more meaningful fashion, and it just didn't. And so it's like very strange ways in which it's connected and disconnected from the previous films in its own franchise. Like, just baffling levels of disconnect between, like, the plots are right there. The last one set them up. Why did you ignore this to just like loop in this whole other way to get there? Very confusing. But like I said, it's a fun Tron experience. I got the experience that I wanted out of the movie. Is it the best possible Tron movie and third Tron film? No. Did I like what I got? Yes, I did. Real quick, before I give you my final thoughts, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about Tron Ares. Also, if you're in the Central Texas area or on planet Earth and can fly to Central Texas next week, I am doing a live event Thursday, October 16th at 7 p.m. at Concordia University, talking about the rise and the fall of the MCU with a marketing professor, the owner of a marketing company, discussing the MCU from a branding perspective and why it was so successful, why it stumbled a little bit, and how it can and is rebuilding trust. I'd love to see you there. Overall, I had a really good time with the movie. It delivered the Tron experience that I wanted in a fresh new way by bringing it into the real world and having some fun, interesting new tweaks on the franchise. It's not the best possible movie they could have made. There were some very strange exclusions and odd choices made here and there. But as a Tron fan, I had a good time. I got what I wanted. Overall, it's a B on the entertainment scale, 7.5 out of 10, but it is a must-see in theaters for Tron fans. If you're gonna see the movie, see it in the theater. This is a movie that plays great on a big screen. It's immersive, vibrant colors. It is worth buying a ticket for the experience of watching this in a theater. Is it the best movie? No, but it's a great theater movie. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.